Alright everyone, so today we're going to be doing a comparison video between the Alpha Beast 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. And I only have a 1.0 and a 3.0, but the 2.0 is pretty similar. I mean, they're all the same knife, just slightly different versions, so I'll cover that too. My knives are kind of customized, not really, just a few small minor things, so I'll make sure to point those out so you don't mistake them for the actual production. So let's start with the 1.0, and let's start at the pivots. Okay, let's compare all the pivots. So originally, the 1.0 started out with a 1/8 diameter pivot, and it used to be T6. These screws used to be T6, and a lot of people had issues with this because when you tighten pivots all the time, that screw easily wears down. So a lot of people ended up with strip screws, and that didn't work out too well. So BRS took note and they replaced them with T8s on the second model, 2.0, and eventually moved up to the T10s on the 3.0. So that's very nice of them. So inside, all of them have the same bushing system, but the materials they used, right, on the 1.0 was that they didn't use steel bushings like everyone else did, standard steel bushings. They actually used bronze bushings. This is what they look like. So the issue with bronze bushing is that the force of the handles coming together and all the rubbing inside is that actually, I don't know if you can tell, the ends are shinier. See the ends are shinier? Is that the ends would actually mushroom. So the sensor would stay, the same diameter, but the ends would actually open up a little bit from the force of the handles closing in and from all the rubbing. And what would happen is that take a washer and it wouldn't slide through anymore. You actually just get stuck. You can't push the washer through the, you can see here. So it wasn't very good, and so what they decided to do was replace it with steel, which is a lot better. So that goes for the pivots. Oh, that's right. They for the 1.0 and 2.0 they used a 5/16 outer diameter washer, and on the 3.0 they upgraded to 3/8, which reduces the handle play a little bit. I mean, they all have pretty close to zero handle play. 1.0 and 2.0 have more handle play, but I mean it's almost negligible. Yeah, they all have, yeah. I was gonna mention that they all have uncrowned spines. This one is crowned, but yeah, they all have uncrowned spines. So moving down the handles, because I think the blade stays relatively the same for all of the knives, so I won't talk about that at all. So moving down, as you can take a note here, you can see the Tang Cups. Okay? See, there's a big difference there. The 1.0, they use these Tang Cups because the reason why they did this was for chaplain purposes. Because when a Tang Cup is open, you can feel it kind of grinding on your finger, and when it's closed in like that, when there's walls on the side here, it's seamless. You can't feel it. And that ended up being very costly for them, and it's actually really difficult to machine that area, and so they decided to cut that out and went with a standard Tang pin, which works perfectly fine, but it did kind of mess with the lockup. Whoops, and I'll talk about that in the future. Yeah, it's just it might be a small thing to some people, but I know a lot of people prefer the old version. But in reality, they function the same way, so it's whatever. In terms of the handle finish, actually, the handles are finished a little bit differently. The 3.0 had a kind of like a darker finishing, which I think was due to the media they blasted it with. But it's fairly minimal. BRS says it's a softer feel, but I didn't see much difference. If you can tell, actually, if you look around the pivots right here, I'll bring these up closer. They actually they rounded out, or kind of made all the edges a little bit smoother, and they did that throughout the whole knife, and you can definitely tell. You see up here in the pivots for the 1.0, it's very sharp. As you come around here, right? A lot of people complain about the sharp edges on the knife, and for the 3.0, it was the same as the 2.0. For the 3.0, they did this nice rounding. It's not like fully round, but they definitely put in more effort to make it smoother to the hands. All right, moving down. Everything's pretty much the same. Chevron's the same. All right, so let's zoom in here. Yeah. So for the pivots, as you can see, for the 3.0 they use female and they use hex bolts here, and it's the standard 1/8. Now actually for the screws I put those in, but for all three versions they use T6. I thought they were going to use T8 for the third version, but I guess not. I mean T6 works fine, but I will say that the bolts are a big improvement because it's obviously less screws, as in this version. You have to tap the spacers, and if something goes wrong, if you break a screw in the spacer, you have to replace the whole spacer or get it drilled out. So having these are definitely a big improvement. Spacers are virtually the same design, so yeah. Latches are the same. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom here. On the 1.0, what people found out was that when you would flip the knife, what would happen is that this latch here would end up developing burr. I don't know if you can see it. When I pull this out, it kind of sticks. See that? It kind of sticks inside the handle because there's burr from scratching here so much, and it would hinder people's flipping because it would get stuck. People would want to flip out the handle, and what happens is that this would stay closed because this latch would get caught in here. So what BRS did was that they actually developed, they actually did a little bit of milling, and they valleyed it out a little bit. I don't know if you can tell right there in that edge. I'm gonna try to zoom in a little closer. There's that edge is kind of angled there, so that way people don't develop burr on their latches. So that was a really big improvement there. And I think the final thing that I want to say is that with the changes to the Tang Cups, there is a significant in the handle spacing difference. All right, I think you can easily tell here. You can easily tell from the lockup too. You can see how easy it is to open and close the 3.0. The 1.0 is definitely oh, there you go, sticking right there. It definitely has a more solid lockup, and that's what I think is due to the Tang Cups on the inside. Is that they might have cut a little bit too much on the inside here, and so the lockup isn't as strong. I mean, the lockup works fine, but it's just not as strong as the previous version. All right, so I guess I could give a quick rundown again. So the 1.0 had T6 screws all around, had bronze bushings, and had the 5/16 outer diameter washers. Did not have a valid, safe handle, and all the edges were sharp. Now the 2.0, the differences made was that the pivot screws were T8, the bushings were steel, and the safe handle was valid. For the 3.0, the pivots were upgraded again, the washers were upgraded to a bigger size, and of course the bushing. I mean, obviously, when you upgrade the pivot size, you have to increase the bushing size. The screws were still T6. Don't forget that's just my doing because I prefer T8 screws. But the big difference is that the spacers are no longer tapped for two-sided screws. It now uses hex bolts. And just to point out that the latch is still using a T6 screw. And the last thing would be the valid safe handle on the 3.0 and 2.0. So yeah, I think I've covered everything. One last thing is that the 1.0 did come. Oh, I'm gonna grab this really quick. In this badass box, this huge fucking box, this massive box. Just look at that. I mean, you look at the other boxes now. This tiny box here, which is, I mean, like it works great, right? But I'm gonna zoom out here. Take a look. This box is awesome. It has a bunch of foam. I mean, it's so legit. And now they use this. I mean, come on, BRS. We want these boxes back. Look how cool this box is. All right. Anyway, that's enough. All right, thanks for watching.